Welcome back to the Oso Spurs podcast. Today we are here to discuss our upcoming fixture against Ferencváros, the current champions of Hungary and top of the table. Here to discuss it with us, we have Andy, who lives out in Hungary and is a sports journalist. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm very well, thank you, Deej. It's great to receive the invite, great to be on, and looking forward to a fun discussion about Thursday's match.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one indeed. And then the usuals, we have Sai. How you doing, Sai?
Hello, mate. Yeah, 3 days on the bounce. Yeah, I'm getting quite used to this, so it's nice to be back again.
Stu, how you doing, Stu?
I'm good. I'm ducking the missiles flying overhead, but all good.
Boy,
Shit.
we'll stay out of that one. And Johnny, how you doing, Johnny?
Do you know what? I'm all the better for Stu really upping his background game, but that's it at golf clubs. Big up to Stu. Beautiful, man. You're putting us to shame.
Sorry.
Yeah, all of our backgrounds are lacking compared to that, especially yours, Johnny. Gotta get
I
some work on
know.
that.
Got to step it up.
So you need your kids to grow up and leave home, and then you can get one of the bedrooms back. That's what it takes.
Well, after a resounding victory, I would say, over Manchester United that we've already talked about in yesterday's podcast. If you want to hear us talk more about that, you can go find it. It's everywhere that this podcast is, obviously. We now turn our attention forward to the midweek game against Ferencváros, the Hungarian champions. Andy, how has their season been so far?
It's been fairly decent. We've played 6 league matches so far and won 6 out of 6. Haven't been entirely convincing in the matches, but can't say no to 12 goals scored and 2 goals conceded. However, it is expected, given the size of the squad and the money behind the club, 6 years champions in a row, that it's really, the club should be in first place. It's more Europe, which is, how would you say, the difference, how you really rate how the team's going.
Yeah, I noticed, I was following the results last week, and I saw that you guys suffered a come from behind victory or loss against Anderlecht. How did that game go?
The first half, Ferencváros gave a fairly decent account of themselves. There were a few half chances, didn't really take them, and that's been the problem this season. Looking as if they're lacking just a little bit of clinicism up front. The second half, Anderlecht got a rather soft goal after about an hour, and then not long after, went 2-0 up after a penalty. Ferencváros didn't really look like getting into the game, but then a red card for Anderlecht and a consolation goal. So made a more or less decent fist of the game, but need to be better if they're going to pick up points in this campaign, I think.
Yeah, and I guess we'll start talking about what we are looking for in this game. So, what is the general feeling around this game in Hungary? What do they expect out of the game? Are they expecting to be competitive? How are they expecting to line up?
I think they're hoping to be competitive. Ferencváros have had some pretty good results at home in Europe over the recent years. They've beaten Dinamo Zagreb here. They've beaten Slavia Prague. They've also beaten Trabzonspor with 10 men, Crvena Zvezda, or Red Star Belgrade for you guys, and drawn against Monaco and Fiorentina. So if they play well, they're not expecting to have huge swathes of possession of the ball, but if they play well, if they can keep their concentration, they might be hoping to get something. I think the feeling is that Spurs play in England every week. They're one of the big, strong teams in England. To get anything from the game would realistically probably be a bonus in terms of the group campaign this season.
All right, Sai, how are you feeling about the game just as a whole after, I'd say, a pretty decent run of form? Are we expecting to keep that up? Do we think that we can stay with 11 men this time?
I would hope so. Yeah, that would be the first tick on the team sheet. Stay with 11. That would be a big bonus. I've got to admit, I don't know a lot about Ferencváros or the Hungarian league. I think, but from our perspective, I think Ange will go out and play our game. Right? I mean, he's not gonna go out and adjust the tactics too much. I guess the concern for us is how many changes will he make and how many changes do we foresee, given that Dragusin is suspended, which was just the dumbest red card in the world in the first game. So I think he's only suspended for one, though. It's just this one that he's suspended for in the competition, right? Because it's only a one-game ban for a straight red. So I guess that'll mean we'll have our strongest defence out, That's right. Now, Romero's back for this one. He was only suspended for the first game, so we'll have Romero and Van der Ven. Left back, I'm not sure whether he goes Davis. Clearly can't go Spence, so he's going to go Porro on the right hand side. And I think that I think he'll put out a fairly strong midfield for this. You might see Bergvall for Madison, but I'm hoping he keeps Decky in there to see. Let's see what Decky can do in there in a game like this as well. So I think that we'll have the majority of possession. I think, but we need to be wary of a team that scored that many goals and only conceded 2. That's a pretty impressive first performance for the first 6 games. So I'm guessing that we'll see a little bit of Ferencváros sitting a little bit deeper and hoping to get us on the break, maybe. And we know that sometimes we can be a bit vulnerable down those down both channels. So that's where I would probably see it going. Ange isn't going to change his tactics. It's just what we do. Right?
It's just what we do, mate. Stu, how are you feeling about the game?
Yeah, I'm expecting turnover, and I just hope it's not the kind of drastic turnover that we had in the last game. I don't think if we play that way that I don't know if I want to butcher the name of the team we're going to play. I'll leave Andy to pronounce it properly for us. But if we give them the chances that we gave Karabag, I think we'll be in trouble. So I'm hoping we go reasonably strong. I would expect Gray probably to start at right back. I'd expect Basuma and Bergvall to come in. But the question is, maybe Sarr, will he go? Basuma, Sarr, Bergvall? And then it's a case of what does he do on the wings? Because we don't really have that much rotation options on the wings. So I presume we'll probably go quite heavy there with the likes of Mikey Moore, Lancashire on the bench to hopefully come on and, once we have a result in hand to give the main players some rest. But I'm fairly nervous. I think going away to this side is not going to be easy at all. I think, they're a very good side. I think with the home fans behind them, I think it's going to be a tough run out for us.
I would agree. And Johnny, to wrap out the Tottenham view on this game going into it, what are your overall opinions? What do you think this game's going to look like?
I'd agree with what Cy and Stu both said. I think I'd suspect that the lineup you suggested in midfield would probably be the way it goes, with Brighton at the weekend. Not any disrespect, obviously, in Ferencváros, because Brighton away and then into the international break, if we can keep the momentum that we've built up over the last couple of weeks, going into that with into the break with a win would be really put us back in that pack at the upper end of the table. So, I mean, I know that Ange will be taking Ferencváros really seriously, but when you look at the option of Basuma, Sarr, and Bergvall, that's still pretty handy midfield. And I suppose, like probably most fans, and Werner kind of stood out for not the best reasons necessarily, even though he didn't play that badly. It was that obviously his finishing was horrendous against United. So, I mean, there's talk about people looking for Mikey Moore to come in on the left. I think it's unlikely, given Ange's track record of, being, I wouldn't say conservative, because he definitely isn't conservative, but treating opposition with respect. And also, like, I think, I'm not sure who was yesterday on the pod was saying about, bringing on the younger players and giving them the sort of 15, 20 minutes. So if things don't go as well, I think it might have been Sai that said that, don't go as well as they might, then, there's less pressure on them. I think if Mikey Moore was starting, there would be quite a lot of weight on his shoulders. And if he even comes on early doors second half, although I'd say he'd be champing at the bit for that opportunity, I still think that he's more likely to come on with 25 minutes to go. But yeah, it's going to be really challenging. And I'm supposed, like, going back to, even the 80s and stuff, and thinking about, I mean, it's a long, long time ago, but football in the eastern side of Europe, I know Hungary's probably Central Europe, really, but that sort of part of Europe, they're very passionate about their football. And I mean, Andy sent me a photograph of the derby from a couple of weeks ago, and it would be an intimidating place. Talk about, the likes of Galatasaray, like the places that we know about that are in that side of Europe. I think, that's not an easy place to go. And Spurs have been turned over. We went down. Who was at Peter's 3-0 a couple of years ago? And we went out. Was that the Europa League? Remember when under Mourinho, and we went
Dinamo
down.
Zagreb?
Dinamo Zagreb,
Yeah.
I mean, once they got a sniff, we were absolutely bricking it. So, yeah, it's going to be I think it's going to be interesting, like, and interested to hear what Andy thinks also, but, like, in terms of the atmosphere, I assume I mean, it's kind of, these games are a test that the Hungarian opposition don't usually provide on the same level anyway to what the likes of your opponents in the Europa League. So how does the game, how do you see it going in terms of the crowd's involvement and the effect of the crowd, and what's the talk around Budapest in terms of is it a big factor that amongst people talking at the water cooler at work or whatever? Is there a big anticipation of the match?
There's quite a big anticipation about the match. To be fair, it's probably the biggest match Ferencváros will play this calendar year at home. If you're not considering the Conference League playoff last year against Olympiacos, who went on to win the trophy. The crowd can be very raucous. It should be a 21,500 sellout tomorrow night. There's about 6,000 will be behind the goal, and they'll give non-stop 90 minutes singing. There'll certainly be a tifo at the start. European matches, there isn't really any pyro, but if the crowd gets going across the stadium, which it does now and again, it can be a raucous little atmosphere. And if Ferencváros get their tails up, some good sides have become unstuck in Budapest.
Yeah, these are one of the...
It's one of those old school grounds. Is it quite tight on the pitch?
It's 10 years old. It's a new stadium called the Groupama Arena. So it's one tier all round every side. I don't know what the acoustics are with the roof, but it really seems to keep the noise in. Quite a few visiting teams. It's not the biggest of capacities, but can be quite lively, and it has unsettled teams when, like I say, if Ferencváros get their tails up and the crowd behind them, they can have their moments. It might not be straightforward for Tottenham.
Yeah, this will definitely be one of those games where our I guess mentality under Ange Ball is really tested, because especially with the way that we play, we can get caught out on the counter. And if we do go down a goal early, it'll be interesting to see how our players respond to that. But I guess if anyone will whip them back into shape, I think it would be Ange. I guess I'll talk next about a little bit more granular with the players. I can't say that I know the Ferencváros squad front to back, but I noticed that Mateo Saldana bagged a hat-trick at the weekend, and that's about the only player that I can think of. I saw he comes off the bench, but he's a newer signing. Is he someone that you guys expect to be starting eventually, or is he more of a depth option?
Mateo Saldana joined Ferencváros for, I think it was €3 million, which is a record signing right before the transfer deadline. I think he played for Partizan Belgrade against, I think, Dynamo Kiev, maybe Lugano, but then with his transfer looking as if it was happening, he hadn't been picked for a good few weeks. So I think it's more a case of match fitness. We've played 14 games this season. He's come on as a sub 4 times. He's played a total of 99 minutes and he scored 6 goals. So if he carries on like this,
Nice.
It will be interesting to see how and when he does actually get picked to start by Janssen. Ferencváros usually play a 4-2-3-1. The first choice striker last season was Barnabas Varga, a Hungary striker, and he got 20 goals, was the league top scorer last season, the first Ferencváros player to score 20 goals a season, I think, since 1981, and Tibor Nyílasi. And obviously he was Hungary's centre forward at the Euro this summer gone by. Saldana does seem to play on the right wing sometimes, very left-footed. But sometimes, I don't know, maybe we'll see both of them up front. Sometimes he's usually come on for Varga so far. But I think he's definitely looking like the one real goal threat for Ferencváros at the moment.
Do you think there's a chance that he starts in this game, or do you think he's still it's gonna be more of like a 60th minute impact sub performance from him again?
I'd like to think he might start. Rather give him the first 60 minutes. I'm not sure what Janssen's thinking will be. I mean, he's played maybe 30 minutes in each of the last 3 or 4 games, but you really got to be looking for him with that goal threat. You got to start him sometime. It also depends on the other options up front. I mean, if he starts up front instead of Varga is a very good penalty box striker, very big aerial threat. His link-up play is pretty decent as well. If Saldana starts on the right, that means there might be a place on the left for Adama Traore, another very left-footed a winger, but he's Ferencváros's, I think, out of the current squad, top scorer in Europe with 17 goals over the last couple of seasons. But he scored a hat-trick against TNS early on in the season, but hasn't really been on the best of form since then. Other options in attacking midfield, you've got Christopher Zachariasen, Norwegian international. Traore's a Malian international, by the way. But Christopher Zachariasen, very good work rate. He's got a good ability to kind of arrive in the second wave, and he pops up with a few important goals as well. He got the goal against Monaco in the 1-1 draw here, which put Ferencváros through the group stage a couple of years ago. And last year he got the goal against Fiorentina, another 1-1 draw, which put them through the Conference League group. So those are the main options. There's another Brazilian who I think we signed from Krasnodar briefly, but ex-Karabakh player, Kadi Borges. And they'd be the main options up front. But I think Saldanha's got to start sooner rather than later at some point.
Well, I do not want to see someone who scored, 6 goals in 90 minutes? That's not... For Tottenham's sake, I kind of hope that he comes off the bench. But Sai, what do you think? Who do you think our impact players in this game are going to be? Do you think that? I guess this kind of ties into the how much you think will rotate. Do you think that? Who do you think we'll see? And is there any player that you want to see that you don't think will start? This question is about Mikey Moore.
The right honourable gentleman to Johnny's answer before. I think Mikey Moore is going to be a talent of a generation. I just think that Ange is going to ease him into things. I don't think he's going to be putting all his eggs in that basket. I would be surprised. Werner's in the European squad, right?
Yes.
I'd be really surprised if you didn't see Werner start in this game. I don't think Sonny starts. I think Sonny's going to be either on the bench or rested. Whether he's fit or not fit, he's going to be just coming back from injury. I think he gets saved certainly for Brighton. I think Werner starts on the left, and then you've got that question about what happens in that midfield and whether he wants to keep Werner out wants to keep Johnson out on the right, or whether he switches Kulu back out to right, which I think will be a mistake. I would really love to see Decky start. And give him that role again, whether it's alongside Bergvall or alongside Maddison. Just give him that role again that he can get used to it even more, because I think he's going to be superb in that position. I think he's going to could be player of the season for us there if he gets his head there. So I think there'll be, like we said, a lot of changes. I think the midfield will change a lot. I hope he starts, and because that'll be my man if he starts. I think he's got so much about him. And that goal that he converted at the weekend, that little flick, it was sort of Haaland-esque almost, wasn't it? It's the way he got up and just flicked it over the keeper was beautiful. And like we said, how he didn't get man of the match for the weekend, it was a little bit surprising, shall we say, because he was outstanding. And then it's you can flip a coin on where else he's going to be impact depending on who starts. I think it's a really difficult one to call, Dig.
Yeah, I think that the one player that I know will start, I don't know, but the one player that I think will get rotated in is Bergvall, because he definitely deserves it after what happened against Karabakh. He looked absolutely crushed to be subbed off so early.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is in sort of, and again, no disrespect to Ferencváros, but Bergvall was probably playing in this sort of standard in the Swedish league, right? You would say that they were maybe comparable leagues, so you'd think that he could be able to handle his own in this company as well, and therefore not so much pressure on him as if he was getting thrown in, against a Man City or an Arsenal. So yeah, I think that could be true.
I think a lot depends on how annoyed Ange was with Bergvall on Sunday, because twice he lost his stuff, shall we say, with mistakes or wrong decisions that he made. So he might, I hope he gives him a run out, but you might think that he might want to teach him a lesson of.
Did he buy something back with the pre-assist? It was a decent corner for Sar's flick on, wasn't it?
That was his
For
first
Solanke's
touch,
goal.
wasn't it?
Does he? I think that might put a bit in the bank, maybe.
We'll say his account's back at 0. Depending on the outcome of this game, he might be back in the black. But yeah, I'm really excited to see Bergvall play. I do think that we won't see Mikey Moore, and I think it definitely makes sense especially it being an away European game against a crowd that will get up for this game, is something that I think that youngsters, especially ones like Mikey Moore, who have really not played in a top league before, it's a completely new experience to them. And to be able to, I mean, he might run out there, he might get started, and I would love to be proven wrong. But I think that those kind of games are games that you need that bit of like experience to be able to play against, to keep your head up against that kind
Composure.
of composure. Yeah, exactly. I think that
He's
that's
not
something
got enough
that
minutes
Werner
in the
has.
tank, has he, for the first team? I
No.
don't think to
No.
not other than a 20-minute cameo. And if you come on with 15, 20 minutes to go, you can still make a real statement and a real impact. And going back, I suppose Dele Alli is the most obvious one in somewhat recent years, where somebody's come in who's basically, to the outside world at least, nobody has a clue about like what they're going to become. And you know, we wouldn't be the only ones who have extremely high expectations for him to be that player who can do that as early as Dele Alli did. And going back to the thing about Bergvall, I mean, I obviously was annoyed with his wasting opportunities, a couple of and trying to be a bit too clever with some flicks and things. But at the same time, I mean, it sort of does show a degree of confidence in himself. And like I know that it isn't necessarily serving the team, but at the same time, they're doing something which is not the most obvious thing, and when it comes off, it can be, a game-changing moment. So, like, you don't want to completely quash that sort of, obviously shooting from 30 yards when you've got better options in front of you, pretty obvious, But I sort of wouldn't say like it to see him putting that belief in himself, but I mean, Mikey Moore did it. Obviously, Mikey Moore had every right to take the shot on late on. But again,
Yeah.
it's a young player who's coming in and having that
Yeah.
sort of precaution. So it's like when watching Cole Palmer for England. And I know Cole Palmer's much more established and everything, but in the Euros when Cole Palmer came on, England were completely changed immediately with his like direct play, his belief in himself, and his end product. And that's obviously for Gareth Southgate to think about.
Yeah.
But well, he doesn't need to worry about that anymore. But I think that younger players coming in with that belief is a really good, refreshing thing as well.
I think if you sorry, Stu, go.
Go, sorry, it's fine.
No, I was just about to say about the Ange's annoyance in inverted commas. I think that he gets annoyed when things like that happen because if you look at the types of goals that he loves us scoring, it's a higher percentage chance of a finish, right? So he looks at the percentage opportunities for each of the plays that he's in, and I think he encourages the players to play the highest percentage balls, the highest.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Sometimes you take a chance, but I think it's maybe getting the youngster to learn that before they start doing the other stuff. A little
Fair
bit
enough.
like we said Brennan Johnson was doing last season. He looked like he was playing to Ange's directions to the letter and not having that flair and that ability. And this season, he really feels like he's come on where he's still doing the same things, but in his own way now. And he looks a lot more comfortable in his own skin down that right-hand side. And I wonder if Ange's got a little bit of that about him because, like I said, the types of balls that he likes to play around the box and the types of balls he likes into the box, they're high percentage chances, aren't they?
I was going to say that I think you're all right that I don't think Mikey Moore will start, but I think considering how he came on at Old Trafford, huge stadium like that, and he played with no fear. He just was going for it, playing like he was playing, with his mates in the park. I mean, so I think it's an intimidating atmosphere where he's going to be going, but I don't think he'll be scared walking onto that pitch. But that said, I do think the way Ange was with Johnson, I think he'll do the same with Werner. He'll back him. He'll start him, say, okay, you've been getting a lot of grief for the 2 misses, but I'm trusting you, and you're going to be my man. I'm starting you. Now go out and deliver. This the way he did with Dragusin, that he brought him on for a few minutes again, just to show, okay, you got sent off. You did something stupid, but I haven't given up on you.
Still my boy.
Yeah. I think I trust Ange's man management as much as I'd like to see Mikey Moore play more. I trust that he knows what's best for him, and he will turn him into the superstar that we all know that he can be.
He will be. He will be for sure. That guy is going places.
As soon as he gets a first team number, I will be getting. That will be the first kit I get with a name on the back in a while.
We know.
Yes. All right.
Can I jump in? Sorry,
Go ahead.
Deej. I'm just because we've got our own sort of Graham Hunter here with Andy. His expertise. He's got the accent. He's got the hairline. And he's definitely got the knowledge. So I'm just interested in the Hungarian because none of us actually live in England, right? But we obviously obsessed with our team, and the Premier League is sort of the greatest league in the world and all that sort of malarkey. I'm kind of interested in what the view of the Premier League would be over in Budapest or in Hungary in general, and also specifically in terms of Spurs. Like, is there much knowledge or appreciation or view on the club? And what about Ange Postecoglou? Is there kind of a what's the kind of situation there with the outlook from Hungary?
Lots of people in Hungary watch Premier football from England live and have done for about 20 years. You get lots of Hungarians that actually, you ask them which team they support, and they'll say Juventus, Real Madrid, Bayern, Tottenham, Arsenal, Man United, you name it, rather than a Hungarian side.
All right.
Pretty much everyone who even is a Hungarian team has a Hungarian team they follow. Most of them will watch English football. They're well aware of the strengths, the weaknesses, especially now with Dominic Szoboszlai at Liverpool. That's ramped up the interest even more. But they're very familiar with all the English teams and the big leagues and how the teams are doing in Europe and the various strengths of them. In terms of Postecoglou, he came here with Celtic, I think, 3 years ago. It was actually the last time Ferencváros lost a group stage match. Celtic won 3-2. Yeah. But Postecoglou, I think, as a player, he was with South Melbourne, and Ferenc Puskás was his coach for a couple of years there.
That's right.
Yeah. The last time that Ange came with Celtic, there was already quite a bit about him in the media about his days in Melbourne in the late 80s, early 90s.
How do you expect them to set up against this? Who do you think they'll be worried about and how they'll try to nullify it?
I would expect Ferencváros to set up as they usually do, kind of 4-2-3-1. They're not going to be gung-ho. They're not going to absolutely sit back and park the bus, though. What I would say is we're probably going to try and frustrate Tottenham early on, try and hit them on the break, and they do have players with pace that can do that. Get in behind the fullbacks, perhaps. I saw the matches against Brentford and Karabakh, both of which were a bit helter-skelter at times. I guess the hope for Ferencváros is that they can hurt Tottenham. They certainly have the players. Their problem in Hungary is usually teams park the bus against them, and it's breaking a low block down in the final third. Against teams in Europe, Ferencváros seem to find it a bit easier sometimes. I wouldn't say Ferencváros are going to have the bulk of the possession, though. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 60-40, 70-30 for Tottenham. The key for Ferencváros is how solid they are at the back. There's maybe questions over the full-backs, especially if you're looking at, Kulusevski, Werner, Maddison, or Johnson with their pace. If they can get into the channels or in behind on the wings, it'll be interesting to see how solid Ferencváros are at the back. They can be quite compact in midfield. In terms of the midfield, the one guy that Tottenham probably want to stop is Abu Fani, Israeli international. He kind of makes the team tick. He's not been hitting the form of last season quite, but scored a few goals, but he had something like 17 assists. He's got the knack of winning balls he shouldn't do, just a quick swivel, turns around, 40-metre pass, and his corners and free kicks. I don't know how many goals he set up for Varga, for headers and so forth. Olympiacos, when they played here last February, they managed to snuff out Abu Fani, and Ferencváros struggled to really build from the back and string passes together. So I'd think that could be the key there. But yeah, Tottenham certainly have the pace and the skill to hurt Ferencváros as well. So, could be for an interesting game. Could be a few goals.
So that
you mentioned that Abu Fani is good at dead ball deliveries.
Yeah.
Is that something that Ferencváros rely on, or because we've been better about it this season, but last season we had a pretty poor record against set pieces. So I was just wondering if that's something that you guys consider a particular strength of yours.
I would have said so last season. The odd thing is this season that there's a new coach here at Ferencváros. Dejan Stankovic won the title last season and got them through the conference group with Fiorentina and Genk. And then he left for Spartak Moscow. So Pascal Janssen, former of AZ Alkmaar, has been brought in. And he also brought in Philippe Romans, Belgian midfielder. And for the first few games, it seemed to be that most of the set pieces were taken by Romans. And Abu Fani hadn't really been getting involved or, having first dibs at the set pieces. The last couple of games, that seems to have changed a bit. Abu Fani's been looking more like himself. There's another couple of guys that can hit a free kick or certainly cross it into the box. I think Caddy could be a danger from that. Civic as well, the left back, or Ramirez. But in terms of set pieces, if he's taking them, Abu Fani can be a real threat.
You hear that, especially with our, I don't know. I think our goal, our free kick and dead ball record has been a lot better this season, and I think we've seen improvement. But it has only been like what, 7, 10, 8 games.
But it depends who's in goal as well.
Yeah, it does
exactly.
depend on who's in goal. Yeah, if it's not, I can't imagine it won't be Vicario.
I hope so.
It will be Vic. It will be, surely.
I hope so. Maybe I've got a couple of questions for Andy about the competition as a whole. Maybe your thoughts and views on the new structure. I just can't really picture it in my head about how things are going to pan out, and I'm not anti it, but I can't really see how it's going to pan out. That's the first question. Then the second one is, do you think that's an advantage or disadvantage for a club like Ferencváros, and how far are they expecting to go within this? Are they thinking about getting to the playoffs and then maybe the knockouts?
First of all, in terms of the new setup, when UEFA brought in the Nations League, I was pretty much immediately all for it, because there's lots of teams of the same levels playing against each other, so the games are usually really even, really interesting. I was also pretty much immediately for the introduction of the Conference League. If you look at the Conference League, it's maybe looking a little bit weaker and thinner on the ground this season in terms of bigger clubs, but especially for, say, champions of smaller nations, mostly, say, in Central and Eastern Europe, kind of like your Karabaks or your Neftchi Bakus or whoever, it's an opportunity to get European football, group football. So I was immediately on board with that. For the Champions League and the setup now for the Europa League, it's taken me a while to come round, but I'll see after a year or two probably. But I'm coming round. I think I like it. On one side, I guess the big clubs are getting an extra couple of games. There maybe is a little bit less jeopardy for the big clubs in terms of, if you're not going to go through, you've got to be in the bottom 12 out of 36.
Yeah.
I like the idea in a way that you're playing 8 different teams. It's a bit frustrating maybe that Tottenham can't host Ferencváros in London.
Yeah.
It'll be taking a while to get my head around that idea.
Yeah.
There's some great ties for Tottenham as well. You've got Galatasaray, Rangers, Roma. So I'd say it's stronger across the board than the typical, Europa League group of yesteryear.
Definitely.
In terms of Varos and their hopes, realistically, if they can make the playoffs, I think that would be a huge success for them. They've managed to get through the group stage the last 2 years running, including last season in the conference. But they've got some tough games. I mean, we lost away to Anderlecht. Their other 3 away games are Dynamo Kiev, PAOK, which is always a hard place to go, and Eintracht Frankfurt.
Wow.
And then home, obviously, to Tottenham on Thursday, home to Nice, home to Malmö, and then in January, home to AZ Alkmaar.
Well,
yeah, so I think for Ferencváros, I think realistically, you're maybe hoping, can they get 6 points at home? Can they maybe get 3 or 4 points on the road? I've read articles saying that probably to get through in the first 8, you need 15 points, give or take. Probably to get into the playoffs, you need 9, 8 at a push with a decent goal difference. I think Ferencváros will be hoping for that. My view personally is if Ferencváros can be going into match day 8 still with a mathematical chance of going through. And that's maybe one good thing with this system is in the old system, you got to match day 4, match day 5. Okay, you could maybe drop into the conference, but you weren't going to progress in this competition. And you're maybe looking at you had to win your game and then you had to have one other result, but it had to go your way. Now you've maybe got to win your game, but a draw might be enough. And you've got 7 or 8 other teams whose results you're waiting on, but they're all at the bottom as well. So I think it might make it more less dead rubber games for the, how would you say, less financially powerful and clubs that aren't going to be there right at the business end.
Yeah. It also works well in the fact that it avoids kind of the group of death where a team could be really, really unlucky and be with all strong teams and give them no chance of getting through. I think now it gives everyone a fighting chance.
Yeah, it feels like goal difference is going to play quite a big part in these, especially at the top and bottom of each of those sections, the playoffs and the straight throughs. It feels like goal difference could be a big factor.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I have experience with this format because they do it in Football Manager, and I addicted to that. I think from my experience in video game, it works pretty well. I'm excited to see how it plays out in real time, and it's gonna be different. But I like that it creates the kinds of matches in the group stage that I think wouldn't otherwise occur with like pot one teams playing other pot one teams. Creates some really interesting games that wouldn't happen in the old format. So that's the part of it that I like the most. So now I think we are about to wrap up. So before we do, we'll get into some score predictions. We will start with our guest, Andy. What do you think the score will be?
My heart says 2-1 Ferencváros, but I'd take a draw. Head says 3-1 Tottenham.
All right, Johnny, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna say we will win narrowly. I'm gonna say 2-1.
2-1. Yeah.
Yeah, good to get a double header, obviously.
Oh, of course. Always a
Spurs
double header.
Double header. Yeah.
Would Ange be happy or mad about that?
He'd be raging.
All right, Si, what are you thinking?
Yeah, Johnny's took my 2-1 there. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's an away day at a raucous place. The crowd will play their part. I think Ferencváros might get about us early doors, and we do look a bit dodgy on the counter sometimes. Depends how many changes, everything that we've said. But I'm still going to go with the 2-1. I'm on the same train as Johnny on that one.
Stu?
Yeah, I was thinking 2-1 as well, but I can't be boring and say the same one. So I'll say 1-0 with no, yeah, exactly. But I just think it's going to be tight, and I think maybe the turnover in the team, it might not be as fluid as the other matches, so it might struggle to create chances. So I'll go for Dom to keep his scoring route, streak alive and get us the winner.
I would hate to watch a 1-0. I've watched too many low scoring games over the past couple seasons with Tottenham for my liking. I'm enjoying the ones where more goals come in. So I'm gonna go for a 3-1. I think it's a bit optimistic. I think a 2-1 is probably 2-1, 2-0 is probably closer to what it will be, but I like goals, so I'll predict more of them. I want to see Bergvall get one. And then I guess Solanke and Johnson to continue their scoring streaks. So I will predict that. And
no Mikey Moore off the bench?
4-1. Mikey Moore off the bench. All right, and with that, I think that we'll just about do it for the podcast. Before we go, I just wanted to give a special shout out to our newest member, Howard. You are a legend. Thank you so much.
Cheers,
H, welcome on board.
Thanks, mate.
Be back for a watch along for the game.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure, but
Yeah,
I think so,
I
yeah.
think that's the plan as of now. So join us. Feel free to join us for that. It's a lot of fun.
Andy, tune in at half-time. You won't regret it. I don't think you'll hear us probably with the crowd, but you never know.
I'll try.
Last question, actually, Andy. So Andy and I were in school together. It's how we were mates a long time ago. So if you went to a game in Inverness Thistle where I would have gone, did you support Cali or did you support Thistle, Andy?
The first games I would have gone to live would have been Cali, probably early doors, early in the 80s, and then 85, 86, there was a group of us, we went to Kings Mills Park. So
Yeah, those good days. But you'd always have at least probably more than one pie and like a mutton pie. So what do you eat in
What's the
Ferencváros
ground?
at half time?
What do you eat at Ferencváros?
Yeah.
In Hungary, they seem to do sunflower seeds. They seem to do. They kind of
Are you
nibble on
serious?
sunflower seeds.
Oh my god.
That would be the historical or the traditional
Wow.
thing to eat. But Ferencváros, it's really kind of hot dogs, sort of, how do you say, breadcrumb chicken sandwiches, maybe
Yeah,
pretzels,
Nice.
kind of your standard fare.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And how much is a
Yeah.
pint?
Pint is about £2.50, £3.
Oh my
You get a
goodness.
tumbler for
Oh.
£1, which you get back on your card if you take it back. And if you don't, you can take them home like the few I've got behind me.
Brilliant.
I need to get out to a game in Hungary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man.
Class.
All right.
It's a great
Well-
city to visit as well. I love the place.
It is a great
Yeah,
city.
it's
Yes.
amazing.
I have
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
out there
it's-
sometimes. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much, Andy, for joining us. This has been
Cheers,
man.
fantastic
Brilliant, mate.
to get an insight into Ferencváros, and hopefully the game is a good one. Hopefully we win. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much to our esteemed panel of Tottenham experts.
Esteemed panel.
And yeah,
Jesus.
up the Spurs.
Go
Go
Spurs.
Spurs.